Hi, this is Justice. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what's new in Rebelle 4. Rebelle 4 has had a complete rework of the brush engine. It means it's faster and it performs much better on low-power machines. It also means that these different tools over here are going to be more true to life in Rebelle 4 than they were in Rebelle 3. There's also the brand new oil brush. Now, the oil brush is lovely and has these beautiful thick paints with gorgeous blending colors. It's low latency. The brushes respond to tilt. So you can choose how that paint is being pushed in which direction, how much it's blending. Beautiful, beautiful brushes, oil brushes. You can adjust also the impasto depth. So here you can make it very flat, or you can make it very nice and thick. You can adjust the gloss to make it shiny or not so shiny. You can now re-wet the canvas and choose how much texture is going to affect where that water goes and how much effect that water has on the existing paint. In order to demonstrate the re-wet and texture influence here in visual settings, I'm going to put some new paint here on the canvas. Blend this around a little bit. I absolutely love this. I think it is so cool. Okay, so we're going to switch to the water tool, and I'm going to put it here on the top. And what you're going to notice with re-wet high, let's switch to the blow tool. This is going to eat the paint underneath. Like this was acid. It's just going to destroy it, destroy it, destroy it. Okay, let's turn this down to 0. And you're going to see that it's going to start going right over the top. It's going to have much less influence on the underlying color. Now, texture influence, this is going to push this wet paint right into the cracks. It's going to run off the high places and go right into the cracks. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this with the watercolor brush. Okay, so let's do water. And yeah, it's transparent. Let's put it here on paint mode 1. Let's take a nice red color, and texture influence is set to 10. Look at that paint move right immediately off of the high points. Now, as I bring this down, you're going to see it'll spread out, texture influence up high, and it's going to attract itself. It's almost like as if it were magnetic. It pulls together and runs into those low spots on the canvas. How cool is that? It's so cool. Let's do it with one more color just because I like doing this. All right, and right over the top. Texture influence is set high. And look at that. Let's blow it around a little bit. And we're going to dry a little area right here. Let's dry right here. And we'll add some water right above. And re-wet is relatively high. We have some tilt here, so it's pushing down here. Let's push a little bit more water over here. And this dry section is blocking the wet paint and the water from moving through there. Really powerful. Very, very powerful. All right, let's bring texture influence down. Re-wet. And let's dry the layer so it stays exactly how we have it. Now look at all the different textures we can create. How much, and the possibilities with Rebelle 4 are endless. You can do so many cool things with this software. If you're using Rebelle 4 and you would like to print your work, it's important that you have color profiles enabled. So here, let's go ahead and put some more color here on the screen. And what we're going to look at here is the soft proofing functions inside of Rebelle 4. All right, so we've got a pretty good size range of colors. So we're going to go here to color management, So here in Proof Colors, what we're going to do is we're going to select the profile that matches our printer, and here's our gamut warning color, that's red. So now if we go to View and we Proof Colors, this is going to show us what it's going to look like inside of that profile, how it will print on that specific printer within those guidelines. So here you can see there's a little bit of change. And if we want to see what colors are being affected, we can choose Gamut Warning. That's going to turn all of the affected colors this very vivid red, so we can see exactly what is being affected when we go to print. So let's look here at natural colors. So natural colors here in gamma correction, we're going to look at both of these. So let's get the watercolor and let's choose a nice blue. Let's put down some blue. Let's bring the opacity up so we can really see this. Zoom in and increase the size. We'll make a couple swatches here. Now let's grab yellow. And here we'll have natural color turned on. We're going to bring the opacity down to right around 53. And I'm going to paint here over the top. Let's do that same thing with natural colors turned off. Put it on the same layer so you can see the differences here between the colors. You're getting this really natural organic green color with natural colors turned on. Now, if we go from opaque mode into semi-opaque or transparent, what you're going to see is these really play a big role in how these colors combine. So if you're trying to get a certain look, playing with the transparency modes is really going to affect how this turns out. So as you can see here, this is you would expect more like this if you were mixing natural media. So for gamma correction, let's go ahead and look down here. We're going to have gamma correction. We're going to turn it off. And let's get a nice red color and switch to the airbrush. And kind of make a little bit of a ramp here. Let's select another section, or actually we'll just move it right over here. And let's turn gamma correction on. Go back to the airbrush. And here what I want you to notice that as we transition from red to blue, there's a darkening that happens, kind of a multiplying effect that happens when gamma correction doesn't preserve that lightness that's naturally in natural media. So the addition of natural colors and gamma correction gives you the chance to work in Rebelle like you were working in Rebelle 3, or to get this new improved mode that treats colors more the way that we expect them to behave in natural media. I'm going to show you how to make your own brush shape or grain, and then we're going to use that new grain to demonstrate the new tiled textures in Rebelle 4. So let's make a handful of vertical lines, and then a couple horizontal ones. Now what we're going to do is we are going to grab this with the selection tool, just like that, and we'll tap. Now we're going to go to another brush, and we're going to tap on grain, and then in order to make a new either grain or shape, you can do it on either one, we're going to tap this import selection. So you can see our new grain up here. Now let's go ahead and deselect. Let's use our new brush to demonstrate tiled textures. So let's clear this layer. So what you can see is this is going to reveal that texture underneath, and that texture is tiled on the screen. A little fancier version of this, we have one here, and we're going to use this texture. So let's go ahead and clear this off. And you can see this one is made on a 512 by 512 PNG, so you can actually make this line up perfectly if you'd like to. So let's go ahead and let's put some texture here on the screen. If we turn on random offset, that's going to lay that underlaying texture, that grain, is going to put it down somewhere else every time that I put the pen tip down. So we can kind of stack these textures over the top of each other. Now if we turn on random angle, then here you can see every time that I put the pen tip down, it's going to adjust the angle of that underlying texture. The underlying texture. I think both of those are correct. So you can do cool cross-hatching and different effects with that. If you do this in conjunction with random offset, it's going to do a little bit more of a jump and a little bit more of a randomized pattern underneath. So let's look at texture smoothing. Let's do our first one here with texture smoothing turned off. You can see that it's pixelated. We have it scaled up fairly large. Let's go ahead and turn on texture smoothing and do the same thing. And after you let go, there's going to be a little bit of post-processing on this, and it's going to smooth out those edges and kind of soften it up a little bit. Rebelle 4 has 5 different painting modes for all of your wet media. So let me demonstrate that by drawing a blue line right down the canvas. And then we're going to look at the first mode, which is called Paint. This was the permanent brush inside of Rebelle 3. Let's just grab a different color, and we're going to draw right over the top. Now, the keyboard shortcuts for these are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Here, the second one, you're going to get a little bit of color blending on Paint and Mix. Number 3, this one is my favorite. On this one, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to do a little bit of blending so you can really blend really nicely in between colors this way. So here, this one is a solid circle. Here, this one is a dashed line for blend mode, which is just blending. This one is just going to push around the colors that are currently on the screen. This is a dashed line, and then dots for erase. And this makes it easy to have, and this visual feedback is really useful if you have the UI hidden and you want to know what's going to happen before you put the brush down. All the media has been made more true to life, which means that watercolors by default, they have that kind of an multiplying, overlaying effect. They're more transparent. Ink pens, just like in real life, these are now more transparent, even more transparent than the watercolor brushes. The same things with markers. Markers are going to have that same effect here. Let's increase the opacity so you can really see this. And let's go back and increase the opacity here. And how that's so great. Now I, again, have the texture influence a little bit higher than normal and re-wet a little higher than normal. And it's fun for me, but you can adjust that, again, however you want. The great thing about Rebelle 4 is you have so much more control on how these living digital media play with the canvas and play with each other. The brush creator has been given an overhaul, has a lot of new features. You can now set 4 different shape and grain combos. This one has 2. This is the second one, has a second grain. Let's make a third, and let's change this to a star, and add a fourth, and let's change this to a triangle. So now what this is going to do is this is going to use pen pressure, pen tilt, random, or sequential as the mode by which it's going to switch between these different things. Let's use pen pressure, and let me demonstrate this for you. We're going to set the spacing to something that we can see so everything is not blended the entire time. And we're going to turn off smudge. Glaze is going to let you, let's go ahead and hop out of this. I have a brush that's set up to do exactly this glaze function. And so what that's going to do is it's going to go right over the top, and it's going to provide a shadow that doesn't destroy or disrupt what's underneath. It's just going to glaze it. And very useful for a lot of different things. I like this. I'm drawing the little shadow underneath the eyelid. Perfect for so many different things. Here you can see our 4 different shape and grain pairs. So the first one is this little, what are you called? Flat noisy. So here you can see this flat noisy shape. And the second one is our circle. I knew that one. Our star and our triangle. So these are being adjusted by pen pressure. And you can see here actually the sequence. This is light pressure is going to trigger image and grain 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'm going to go right here, and you can see light pressure, medium pressure, a little bit more. We should trigger that star, and then really hard, we're going to trigger that triangle. And that's very cool. Tip tilt, let me demonstrate this for you. This is new and very cool. So here, as I tip the stylus sideways, what it's going to do is it's going to adjust that image, which means if you're doing pencil drawing and you would like to create that really nice shading pencil effect, let's go ahead and reset this back to default and go up here, my shader brush, and let's hide this here. You can see here how nicely I can use the tilt of the stylus to do some shading. And there's another feature here called Dirty Brush. And Dirty Brush is, as you would imagine, it's how a brush behaves in real life. So let's bring up a little bit more color here. As we switch between colors, the colors are going to stay in the brush as we go from color to color, and they'll eventually work their way out of the brush. But this is going to give you a lot more depth to the color. It's going to look a lot more natural. It's not going to look like you're grabbing a brand new brush in between every single color that you pick, and which is really what I like and what I think most of us want is something that's going to behave closer and closer to real natural media. Now, in the past, if you were working with the dry media, what would happen is as soon as you started drawing here, you would have a new layer created for that dry media. This doesn't happen anymore. The wet and the dry media can go onto the same layer just fine. They can work with each other. They can blend with each other. They're in harmony with each other. Let's go ahead and create a new layer. However, if you want to keep them separate or you just want to use multiple layers while you're painting, you can grab a couple layers and select them, and you can make a layer group with everything inside that you can turn on and off with the visibility option here on the side. And this is going to make any type of painting where you're using a lot of different layers a lot easier to do in the new version of Rebelle. There are new brush stabilization options. So here we'll draw a line. We're going to open up the line smoothing properties here. You have moving average, which was what we had before, and now we have pulled string. Let's turn this all the way up so we can see what this looks like. So here there's a little line underneath here, and as I pull, I can very, very smoothly control what that line's going to do. So you can create these beautiful clean lines using the new pulled string feature with all of your new brushes. The properties panel has a lot of new options for the individual brushes. And what this means is you can choose what things are saved, what the tool, what the brush is saved to do, whether it's mix or erase, whether it's paint and blend or blend. You can choose to save those things with this option right here. So if I choose don't save, or if I choose to save both the paint mode and all of these right here, these are called volumes. So these volumes can all be saved with the brush or not saved. So I'm going to jump back here to the pencil and I'm going to show this to you. Let's look at these two charcoal brushes. So right here, and let's click right here. And you're going to notice both of these have a size of 56 because both of them are set not to remember. So these are don't save volumes and paint modes. So if I change one here up to 76, the other one is also going to be changed to 76. This works with opacity and pressure as well. Now right here we have charcoal set. This is going to save just the volumes, which again is these right here, save opacity, size, and pressure. So here, this is our size. If I change this, this is going to affect these two. These are now going to be 77. However, if I change this really low, and then I go over here because this first charcoal brush is set to remember, it says, no, I remember I'm supposed to be bigger. If we go here to charcoal and we set this to erase, this one, because it has save volumes and paint modes into brush preset selected, it is going to remember everything. This is the elephant of the brushes. And we have set this to be an eraser, and it's going to remember I'm an eraser. So here, this is going to switch because we switched it over here. So let's go paint mode. And we're going to paint. And then when we come over here, it's going to remember, oh, nope, I'm an eraser. So again, this is just a very powerful way for you to control what your brushes remember and what they forget. Don't be overwhelmed. This information is in the Brush Creator series, so you can go slowly through this with me and understand exactly how all of this works together. And it will do what it's told, which is nice. The Brush Creator has new functions specifically for oils and acrylics, max loading and max smudge. So let's go ahead and put some more color down. And these are nice and dirty. And let's put this just on paint. And let's go max loading. We're going to drop this down. And what you're going to see is this is a much flatter, less empastic. I don't think that's a word. There's less impasto. And then let's bring this up. And this is going to be really thick paint. What I like is that this is specific to the brush. Over here in visual settings, this is for the entire canvas. Everything here is going to increase the impasto depth. When you adjust this, this is just that brush. So if you put impasto depth all the way up and then come over here and adjust this just the way that you like it, it's going to allow you to have a little bit more range. Let's put this up pretty high. And then let's look at max smudge. We're going to put this back to paint and blend. Let's put smudge at 0. And then let's bring smudge to 200. And what you're going to see is how this affects the underlying paints. Here you can actually see those paint strokes underneath. This is more almost like an oil glazing effect. We're not really talking about transparency or opacity, but it's going over the top of the colors, the paint underneath. Max smudge here, this is really pushing and affecting. The colors are underneath, it's eating away at it, it's smudging it. So here, this is going to give you an option of how much this is going to smudge and how much loading will be on the paintbrush. There's tiled textures. There's a lot of options here. I recommend you check out, again, the Brush Creator series, and this will go into all of the details here on the new features inside of the Brush Creator. Now, if you've just used all the new features inside of the Brush Creator to create some really cool brushes and you want to share them with the community, you can do that now. Right down here, there's an option to share brushes. You can choose what gets shared. So if you want to select specific brushes, you can do that. You can write a description so other people can find it, and you can share it. Here, this will upload, and it'll be available to other Rebelle 4 users. If you'd like to do the same thing, you can do that with your artwork. So here under Community, you can go to Publish. You can add the name of your picture, description, tag so other people can find it, watercolor, ocean, waves, sunshine, palm trees, accept the terms, and click Publish, and this will publish to the gallery. And from here, you can also publish to different social media sites like Facebook. And here in the gallery, you can see other people's works as well as the works that you've posted. If you're using a device like the Surface Pro or a tablet that uses Windows 10 and Touch, then you'll be happy to hear that Rebelle 4 has been optimized to improve and work with the Tablet Pro Artist Pad, which means that you can hide the UI, but you can still access the things that you want. So here, we're adding some different colors. And let's look at the Layers panel, the Tools panel, bring that over here and hide it. Let's switch to a pencil and change the color. And let's add some water to the screen here. And let's look at that water. All right, and let's unpause diffusion, switch to the blow tool, and then push that around. You can see how quickly you can move around because a lot of the optimizations that were made. So here we can zoom in, pan, go back to the pencil, decrease the brush size, and just start working. And it all works together the way that you would want it to work. Very, very, very nice, very fast, easy to do in Rebelle 4. Inside of Preferences, you now have more options for the cursor. So you can choose to show the cursor. You can choose to show the cursor while painting, as well as showing the paint and blend modes in the cursor shape. So let's go ahead and we'll close this so you can see what this looks like. So let's switch to one of the wet media. You can see this here. This cursor is a circle with a dashed line. If we go here, it's a solid line, solid line. Blend mode is going to be dashed, and erase is going to be dots. So this is a nice way to tell which mode you're in, so that if you're trying to paint and you're like, why is this not working? You can look if you have the UI hid, or just look at the cursor, and it is a very nice visual feedback element. The clone tool and the fill tools have gotten some new update as well. So let's look at the clone tool first. So there's an option for aligned and non-aligned cloning. So let's go ahead. I'm going to show you what that looks like here. So we're going to draw a little man. I believe that looks almost exactly like me. And we're going to do a little bit of extra stuff right here to demonstrate this concept. So here we're going to choose the clone tool again, and we're going to choose aligned. Now, as I tap here with the Alt key, you can see we have our little man, and let's bring the size up a little bit further. It's going to remember the spacing, the distance between where I set the target and where I first put my stylus. So now we have the target over the blue dot, over the green dot, and over the gold dot. If we turn off aligned, what it's going to do is it's going to remember this target location and just let us clone that over and over again. Very useful in a lot of unique ways. The fill tool has also gotten some new features, including use alpha and wet the layer. So if we want to look at the alpha function here, we're going to use the selection tool, and let's select right here. And we're going to go back to fill. And let's go ahead and fill that. Let's fill that with a different color, green. You can see it's filled, and it's used the alpha underneath to fill with a new green color that has alpha applied to it. Let's make a selection again. And here we're going to fill, and we're going to have alpha turned off. And what you're going to see is this is going to put a solid opaque color of green over the top, not respecting the alpha of the layer underneath. If we want to wet the layer, then right here, this is going to add paint and water. So let's move this selection right here and go back to fill, wet the layer. Let's see what that looks like beforehand. Let's dry it. Now it's fully dry. And let's go ahead and right here, you can see we have added wet the layer. And we look at it, you're going to see this area is wet. And when we dry it, you can see a slight change in color there between the two. It wets the layer when you use that function as well. Not just color, also water. With all that's new in Rebelle 4, if you have Rebelle 3, it is a significant jump. So you're going to love how fast and responsive everything is, how much better the colors blend in Rebelle 4. The brand new oil brush, the improvements, the more natural brushes and how they work with the canvas, the way that the paint interacts with the canvas and paint textures, all of it has been very thoughtfully done. There's a large number of new brushes for you to try out that have been created intelligently by artists. So give it a shot and let me know what you think of Rebelle 4 in the comment section. If you're new to digital painting, Rebelle 4 is the most accurate digital painting software on the planet, and I've tried all of them. All right, you guys, thank you for watching. Check out the rest of our tutorial series on the Escape Motions YouTube page. Until next time, stay creative and have a wonderful day.